Hello YouTube. Have you ever felt really satisfied by being able to say, I told you so? Well, I found this question on Mumsnet and did the only reasonable thing and made a video so I could share it with you. Am I being unreasonable to ask for your best I told you so moments? Well, it turns out that this little feeling of smugness is a result of the activation of the reward centers in your brain. Have a quick look at this blog if you're interested. Of course, and I told you so may seem like a clever way to make yourself look good and cover your own butt after something goes wrong for someone else, but it could indicate that you're a sore loser or that you're not trustworthy or you might not be much of a problem solver. So it may be a good idea to keep those I told you so's to yourself. But we don't always have to say it to feel it, do we? AIBU 990 starts us off with this original post. I feel like we can't talk about these moments in real life without sounding smug, but would love to know stories. Mine is when a git at work left his lovely, also at work, wife for a total bully, also in the same office. After a few months of flowers delivered to the office and rubbing it in under lovely ex-wife's nose, new lady chucked him. Haha. I didn't say I told you so, but I could tell that everyone else, the rest of the office is lovely and scandal-free, and definitely his wife was thinking it. What's yours? And here come the stories. Dick Wad colleague was too busy and important to take the time for me to show him how to use a piece of equipment before I went on leave for a month. It'll be fine, he said. I'm too busy, he said. Guess what broke after a week? I hear it got fixed eventually, but he had to admit to not knowing how to some senior people first. I live near a tidal river. There are signs everywhere warning drivers not to park in certain spots due to flooding risk. There's also a riverside pub with a lovely terrace that you can watch the world go by, and often you see drivers park in these spots when I know there's a high tide due in a few hours. As these drivers walk past the pub, I've politely warned them that the tide is coming in. Most thank you before shifting the cars, but there are always a few, yeah, whatever, F off types. It is hugely satisfying watching the water slowly creep up on the car, reaching the footwells and the wheel arches, etc., before said owner comes out shrieking down the street, losing their minds as their car is half underwater. Every time I tell my mother-in-law I need my son back so I can get him down for a nap because he's tired. That baby's not tired. 5 minutes later, he's snoring away. Don't ever try to tell a mum. Mums know their babies better than everyone else. My neighbour. Every time it was my neighbour. He would do things that were frankly stupid, and I'd suggest perhaps doing it differently. Slug pellets didn't kill hedgehogs, and he accused me of putting a dead hedgehog in his garden. My garden waste-only bin was the cause of the rats, and not the bird seed he spread liberally all over his garden. Or that my bins, not his very drop-blocked drains, was the cause of the god-awful smell, and that I somehow blocked his drains with tampons and wipes, even though I'm at the bottom of the hill, so my clear drains had nothing to do with his blockage. Somehow, my stuff that I don't even use travelled upstream and into his loose sewer pipe into the drain. Best one though was back when we had that really cold snap and the whole of the UK had snow. He decided he had to de-ice his windscreen quickly and with hot water. Before he poured it, I told him it was a stupid idea, dangerous from the splashing of boiling water, and his windscreen could shatter, especially if there's dings and scratches in it, and to run the car heaters instead. He told me to F off. He was a nasty, harassing piece of crap, long story there, and proceeded with his plan. The entire windscreen spiderwebbed, and I couldn't help but say, You might want to call someone for that. It looks real bad," and left him to it. Lived next door to my in-laws. We're farmers. And whenever I hung out my washing, my father-in-law would light a bonfire and then peer over the wall to watch my reaction. He also had his bonfire beside his oil tank, which unfortunately never caught fire. But the heat wrapped the tank so much that the tank split, and the oil company refused to deliver. Father-in-law had to pay to have a new tank installed and find a new spot for his bonfire. Just before Christmas, I had a delivery which went to the in-laws' house by accident, so father-in-law left it out in the rain. The look on his face on Christmas Day when he opened his soggy present was priceless. Ooh, I have a mother-in-law one as well. When our daughter was little, she was a runner. For this reason, we kept her on a wrist link because she frankly was a nightmare. She'd leg it and hide in clothing racks, etc. because she was bloody evil. I told mother-in-law this, but mother-in-law hated the wrist link and said it was akin to a dog lead. I insisted that if mother-in-law was taking her out, the daughter wore the link. Obviously, mother-in-law knew best, didn't put the link on, turned around for a second, and darling daughter had vanished. She was eventually found hiding in the shop, but when mother-in-law returned, she was ashen and very shaken. When I'd finished going nuclear, I did actually spit out, "I told you so!" In my late teens, I babysat for a family. The wife was really nice, and the husband superficially okay, but a bit of a knob. Turned out he had been serially unfaithful. The wife kicked him out. She asked me to babysit after they split. He was there seeing the kid when the wife's date turned up, collecting her in a sports car. Gorgeous man, even to my 18-year-old self. The wife, looking gorgeous, got into the car and they drove off. The husband had a massive man tantrum. It was very funny. I feel that this next one is a little bit of malicious compliance. Long car trip with my family friends. We'd been travelling north all day, as any fool could see on the map. So when at lunchtime they asked me to swap seats with the son my age, because he'd had the direct sun on him all morning so far, I was a bit bemused why they thought that would work, but okay, adults know best. Apparently, it occurred to no one else that driving north an entire day meant the sun was now on the other side of the car. So if he didn't whinge and make me change sides after lunch, he would have had the shade for the rest of the trip. There was some unhappiness when they realised, but I pointed out that I hadn't tricked anyone. And I didn't point out the flaw in their reasoning when I was told to switch, because I assumed 3 adults and a child my age already knew that the sun does what it always does. Mine is small but beautiful. I was playing pool in a pub with a group of friends. A bloke said loudly, "Women can't play pool," like really loudly, just as I took a shot, which by sheer fluke was an absolute cracker, bouncing off the sides perfectly and potted the ball like a dream. He looked like a right prat. Oh, there's been a few, but most recently, a friend, not a close friend of mine, has always been anti-COVID vaccine, her choice, and we can all make our own decisions. She caught COVID this week and has been pretty damn poorly. Not to the point of hospitalisation, but probably close. She has health problems. After months and years of posting anti-COVID and anti-vaccine stuff on social media, she's now posting how ill she's been for sympathy. She's not posting it to raise awareness, just for sympathy. She's very competitive and her symptoms had to be worse than everyone else's. Just last week she posted she didn't believe in COVID, and now not every illness or symptom is COVID. It's not, obviously, but basically she was saying how it doesn't exist, and now it does in her mind. She expects all the sympathy. My ex-husband used to take the pee out of my careful packing and checking of things when we went anywhere, in a very mean way. We went on holiday once, and he wouldn't let me help or suggest or check anything whilst he packed his and our child's things. Unbeknownst to him, I checked and sorted properly our kids' stuff and ignored his, so he turned up on holiday with no pants and a cotton bed sheet instead of 3 linen shirts. He's also gone to the airport twice without his passport. Myself and Sister 1 were due to be bridesmaids for our Sister 2. We went for fittings and Sister One was pregnant. Wedding was sent for about 2 months after the baby was due. Sister One said to just get the dress ordered in her usual size 8. I, already a parent of 3 by this point, very tactfully and privately suggested that her body might change shape in any number of areas, so maybe she should get the dress larger and then we could alter it at fittings after the baby was born. Dresses took a while to come in as the shop ordered them in and then altered them. Sister One got so upset and said I was fat shaming her and that she would be back in her size 8 and just because you had no willpower after children doesn't mean I won't. It wasn't pretty. She was snipey and bitchy to me for a few months and told everyone I'd called her fat, so I just kept my mouth shut. The baby is born. 2 weeks late, the dress had arrived. The dress didn't fit across the bust as she was breastfeeding. Sister 2 hid her annoyance and said we would just get a similar dress for Sister 1 to wear. Anything the bridal shop had in stock. Sister 1 just threw a massive strop, refused to be a bridesmaid at all. She tried to make it out it was because she was too busy with the baby and that I had made her feel uncomfortable. Face on her all day while trying to act busy with the baby, but one of the other bridesmaids got drunk and told everyone. The teacher who was responsible for university guidance at my school told me to be realistic about applying to Oxford, using the actual words. You're bright, but you're not Oxford bright, so lower your expectations. She offered me no assistance in the application, but couldn't help the teacher's pet in my school year enough with hers. I got accepted, teacher's pet didn't. When I picked up my A-level results, which confirmed my place, you bet I told the teacher I told you so, to her face, and loved every minute of it. Yeah, teachers shouldn't be like that. That's pretty mean. In infant school, I told the horrible dinner lady I didn't like cheese pie and it made me feel ill. But she stood over me whilst I sobbed and ate it. I promptly threw the lot back up all over her shoes. Told you so. The midwife, when I was having my son. I was wheeled into the lift to be taken upstairs, as the son was nowhere near arriving. Halfway between floors, I not so politely pointed out that his head was out. Cue a hasty descent to the birthing suite again, and the midwife blaming the lift motion. Oh, and here's another malicious compliance story. I sell handmade fudge and was at a food festival. I sell a chili chocolate fudge that has a real chili kick. A couple sampled the chili fudge and their son, who was about 7 or 8 years old, said that he wanted to try it. They told him repeatedly that it had chili in, it was very hot and he wouldn't like it. The son then proceeded to throw a major tantrum, demanding he wanted the fudge. After a few minutes of the tantrum, Dad said, "Okay, you try it, but you won't like it." You see, the fudge has a trick to it. You get the chocolate first and it takes about 30 seconds for the hit of chili to kick in. So the son ate the chili fudge and with a big smug grin on his face said, "I like this." Then the chili hit. The shock on his face was a picture. He swallowed it and then got the real shock. The second much hotter chili kick hits when you've just swallowed it. The parents just stood there howling with laughter. The dad came back later to thank me and to tell me the son had been a pain in the butt all morning and the fudge incident had fixed it. Let's finish on a nice one. I never actually said it, but when my husband and I announced we were getting married, we were both teenagers and had only met a few months earlier. Much fuss was made and many mutterings amongst friends and family along the lines of, "I'll give it 2 years," or "I would never be so stupid," etc. That was over 30 years ago. We're still happily married and all the mutterers are now divorced. Sweet. Well, that's about enough of that for today. And if you have your own stories, please do share. But for now, that's me saying goodbye and I'll see you next time.